bed in the morning is all that I ask of life.
In 1941, Warner Bros. Filmed a 12-minute screen test of Virginia Mayo. All of it was cut from the final movie. The footage disappeared into studio vaults for over 80 years. In 2023, film historians finally restored it. When they screened it privately in Los Angeles, the audience was stunned. What they saw wasn't the polished star everyone remembered. It was raw, unfiltered footage showing Virginia before Hollywood controlled her. The studio had buried it for a reason. What she did in those 12 minutes would have changed everything about her career. Virginia Mayo was born as Virginia Clara Jones on November 30th, 1920, in a cramped two-room apartment sitting above a saloon in St. Louis. Her family had deep American roots that stretched all the way back to 1797, when her ancestor, Captain James Piggott, founded East St. Louis. But her own childhood was shaped by struggle. Her father, Luke Jones, had worked as a reporter for the St. Louis Globe-Democrat, but lost his job after World War I, caught in the economic slump that rolled through the city. By the late 1920s, they were barely getting by, sometimes moving in with relatives just to survive. But her world wasn't only hardship. Her aunt ran a local acting school, and Virginia found herself swept into that world before she even understood it. By the age of 6, she was already performing, copying her mother's routines, taking dance and elocution lessons, and getting her first tastes of stage life at small-town events. That early mix of grit and creativity never left her. By 16, she was ready to take a risk. She graduated from Soldan High School in 1937 and jumped right into the performing world, joining the chorus line at the St. Louis Municipal Opera Theater. Her pay was just $15 a week, but that small check felt like a step forward. She danced at the Hotel Jefferson alongside 6 other girls until a man named Andy Mayo saw something in her. He brought her into a vaudeville act called Morton and Mayo, and for the next 3 years, she played the comedic counter to their pantomime horse act, becoming the target of laughs and the heart of the routine. Their act reached New York's Billy Rose's Diamond Horseshoe Club, where Hollywood noticed her for the first time. Samuel Goldwyn had an eye for new faces, and when he saw her, he didn't forget. Still, life was hard. Virginia sometimes had to sew her costumes from scrap fabric just to get on stage. Boarding house rent swallowed most of her pay, and it was clear that being noticed was only half the fight. Staying afloat in the vaudeville circuit took everything she had. Before that, she had already begun breaking rules. In school, she would skip classes just to sneak into theaters and rehearse ballet alone. Once she got caught in a closed theater and was scolded by the authorities. But she didn't stop. She dropped out completely by 16 and joined the East St. Louis Theater as a chorus girl. Her $15 weekly pay barely covered anything, and she lived shoulder to shoulder with others in crowded rooms, some of them dangerous. She was harassed by stage managers. There was no one to protect girls like her. But she stayed. She practiced. She dreamed. She learned early what it meant to be a woman chasing stardom in a world built for men. That same year, 1937, she joined the Aquacade, a traveling water show that turned public pools into floating stages. At 16, she dove, danced, and glided alongside synchronized swimmers across Chicago. Then came a night that nearly ended everything. During a complicated routine, Virginia lost her footing on a dive and was pulled unconscious from the water. Local headlines picked it up, but she wasn't defeated. Instead, she asked for a raise. Her weekly pay jumped from $25 to $35. She told the producers the risk demanded it. They agreed. It was her first negotiation, and it worked. 2 years later, in 1939, Virginia reached Broadway. She joined George White's Scandals, one of the biggest revues in town. As an understudy, she wasn't in the spotlight yet, but people noticed. Then, during a live rehearsal, her costume slipped. It was a wardrobe malfunction, but the damage was done. Whispers swirled through backstage corridors. Her name appeared in gossip columns. She was humiliated, but she didn't run. She learned. She realized how fast image could be twisted, how little control a performer had. It was her first public lesson in how women were treated in the entertainment business. In 1940, she took another chance and joined a vaudeville act in New York, hoping it would finally break her through. She fell for a small-time producer who dangled a screen test in front of her. After one night, he disappeared. She was left alone in a city that didn't care. For 2 nights, she slept on benches in Central Park. She had no money, no prospects, only her stubborn will to survive. She found a job at a diner near Times Square, pouring coffee and serving sandwiches. That season of her life, the cold, hungry stretch of 1940, became one of her defining memories. She would speak of it later as the lowest she ever fell. But things turned. That same year, in a cramped Manhattan office, she auditioned for Samuel Goldwyn's team. She was shaking. Her scene was from Gone with the Wind. Her voice wavered, but something in her delivery caught their attention. They offered her a contract worth $2,500 for 1 year. But it wasn't all good news. There were strict clauses buried in the paperwork. She couldn't date publicly. Her movements were tracked. Her image was no longer hers. Still, she signed. She was in. In 1941, she made her last vaudeville appearance on a radio show that would later evolve into The Ed Sullivan Show. She sang T for Two, off-key. It didn't go well. Audiences weren't kind. But decades later, a clip of that same performance resurfaced. In 2015, it was pulled from a forgotten reel and shown online. People didn't just hear the pitch problems. They saw the spark. They saw her raw, unfinished energy before Hollywood wrapped her in gloss. That little piece of tape, barely a minute long, became a window into what she was before the studio took over. She arrived in Hollywood that same year, 1941. Warner Brothers signed her for They Died with Their Boots On, a Raoul Walsh film starring Errol Flynn. For her screen test, they dressed her in a bikini and filmed her as a saloon girl. 12 minutes of footage were shot. All of it was cut. The scenes were buried in the Warner Brothers vaults. They remained there for over 80 years. But in 2023, film historians finally restored the footage. It was screened privately in Los Angeles, and it stunned the audience. That early footage showed she had presence even before her official debut. Most screen tests from that time were lost forever, but hers survived. And that tiny miracle helped rewrite how people saw her legacy. Her first real movie role came in $1 Million Baby in 1941. She played a hat-check girl and had just 2 lines. But Jack Warner wasn't satisfied. He ordered reshoots. He told the crew to make her sexier. Behind the scenes, they pushed her to lose 15 pounds in 4 weeks. She did it, but it damaged her health. The obsession with appearance wasn't hidden. Studio memos later published in a 2017 book showed the pressure she faced. Her weight, not her voice or talent, was the main discussion. Cast members whispered about it. The producers tracked every inch she lost. It was cruel, but it was routine in 1940s Hollywood. Things got worse during filming. On the set of They Died with Their Boots On, she clashed with famed costume designer Ori Kelly. One of his dresses ripped in the middle of a scene. It caused a 3-hour delay. People said she was difficult. The studio thought about dropping her. That reputation followed her. Ori Kelly later wrote about it in his memoir, saying she refused to wear what she was told. In those days, saying no could end your career. Virginia didn't back down. She kept going, but the label stuck. Then, in 2024, a reel of that long-lost footage showed up at a Warner Archive auction. It was a silent scene of her improvising a flirtatious dance with extras. At the time, censors had blocked the footage. It was considered too much, but collectors knew its value. The reel sold for $45,000, a record for a single piece of classic Hollywood film. Film historians said the scene revealed a side of her no one had seen before. It was playful, bold, and completely in control. That tiny piece of film brought her back into the spotlight again. Rejection didn't leave her alone. Between 1941 and 1942, she auditioned for 20 roles. Studios kept saying she was too voluptuous for the kinds of ingenue parts they were casting. One rejection letter ended up with Luella Parsons, the most powerful gossip columnist in the business. A friendly agent leaked it. Parsons published the story, and it created a buzz. Suddenly, people were talking about how unfairly Mayo had been treated. The public started to root for her. She wasn't supposed to be dangerous. Virginia Mayo was supposed to be delicate, graceful, easy to market. But in 1944, on the set of The Princess and the Pirate, everything flipped. She was just doing a playful rehearsal, fencing with a stuntman who'd been working for years. She misjudged the angle, swung too wide, and sliced him across the arm. Blood soaked through the sleeve. The stuntman screamed. He sued. The studio paid $2,000 quietly to bury it. But word got out. That one sword fight gave Virginia a new label in the press. Unpredictable. Dangerous. And that was rare for women in those tight censorship years. But she didn't stop. In 1945, Wonder Man pushed her even harder. The color process was new, and Technicolor wanted her red hair to glow. That meant sitting under searing lights for 14 hours straight, while makeup artists dabbed, powdered, and reapplied everything that melted under the heat. She fainted. Doctors found out she had anemia, but the studio kept it quiet. Too much risk. She was too valuable now. She pushed through the exhaustion like it didn't matter. That same year, she fought for something most actresses never got: residuals. Warner Brothers offered her $5,000 for The Kid from Brooklyn, but she wanted a cut from the war bond tie-ins too. The studio blinked first. They gave her a contract with a bonus clause worth $10,000. No one else had it. It made her powerful and set the tone for every deal she made after. She didn't just charm the audience. She risked her life in 1943 when she flew out with the USO. Guam, the Pacific. She was singing one night when the air raid hit. Bombs dropped. Shrapnel tore through the air and rattled the stage scaffolding. She kept performing. Her letters back home were raw and brutal, but the military censored them. Too graphic, too emotional. Decades later, she read them aloud in an interview. Her voice shook when she spoke about the boys crying behind the tents. Then came Captain Kidd, where the costume weighed 40 pounds. Every time she moved, her back screamed. Hidden under her gown was a corset brace, just to keep her upright. Set photos from 2022 showed the strain in her face. Nobody said anything back then. Nobody was allowed to. They needed her to smile. But in the best years of our lives, she dropped the act. Marie Derry was loud, shallow, selfish. She wasn't supposed to be likable. But Mayo gave her a kind of truth that stung. She pulled pieces from her vaudeville childhood and her mother's faded ambition. She made Marie real. So real that audiences didn't hate her. They just saw her. And when she protested a kiss scene, saying real couples wouldn't hang on that long, the director listened. The film won 8 Academy Awards. Virginia didn't win one, but she didn't need it. Everyone noticed. That same year, she turned down reshoots for Casablanca. A small part, not a big deal. She had a timing conflict, took out of the blue instead. Later, she found out the Casablanca role could have doubled her salary to $50,000. She called it one of her biggest regrets. Everyone in town remembered that. It was the gamble every star feared. Somewhere in the desert, she met Howard Hughes. Nobody knew exactly when it started, but by 1946, she was flying in his planes. People whispered. They thought it was a fling. It wasn't. It lasted years. When it ended, Hughes gave her a diamond necklace. She pawned it for $8,000 to help cover family debt. Behind the glamour, she was bleeding just like everyone else. Then came The Secret Life of Walter Mitty in 1947. The Rain Scene, a romantic, magical dance number with Danny Kaye. It took 50 takes. Mayo danced until her shoes soaked, her skin blistered, and her body gave up. She got pneumonia. The shoot shut down for 2 weeks. It cost the studio $20,000. No one blamed her. That scene became one of the most beautiful moments in the whole movie. But not everything was beautiful. One night in 1947, she got into a brawl at a nightclub. A man assaulted a waitress. Mayo stepped in. Fists flew. Paparazzi got the shot. Warner Brothers panicked. They rewrote her contract, slipped in a morals clause that let them fire her for causing a scandal. The papers called her feisty. She was trying to protect someone. But in Hollywood, good intentions didn't matter. Just appearances. In Flaxie Martin, she played a venomous femme fatale. What the public didn't know was she was channeling real fear. A year earlier, she'd watched an actress get destroyed by a gossip column after rumors of an affair with George Reeves exploded into lawsuits. Mayo wrote about it later in a coded diary. A set collapse, but the stage manager kept the curtain up. She saw the truth covered with lies. She acted like Flaxie because she knew how it felt to be cornered. Then came White Heat, 1949, her and James Cagney. Rehearsal got out of hand. She slapped him, not once, 17 times. Her hand swelled. She iced it in her trailer. Cagney was stunned. He didn't say a word until the director called cut. Then he told her he was scared of her. The scene was electric, and that slap made it unforgettable. She wanted to go darker after that. She auditioned for Sunset Boulevard. Billy Wilder told her no, said she was too pretty for tragedy. So she dyed her hair brown, hoped the sadness would show through. It didn't matter. He gave the role to Gloria Swanson. But everyone in town talked about her protest. The papers called her brave. She was trying to break out of the box, but the box was sealed tight. In 1950, the West Point story became a mask for grief. She suffered a miscarriage during filming. No one knew except James Cagney. He covered for her, told producers she was stuck in wardrobe fittings. She got back on set, quiet and pale, and no one asked questions. That pain stayed hidden until her memoir came out decades later. Then came the rumor that she'd had an abortion. She sued the columnist for $100,000 and got a retraction. Thousands of letters poured in. Supporters called her strong, honest, misunderstood. She realized then how powerful truth could be. In 1955, NBC gave her a show, The Virginia Mayo Show. It was loud, expensive, full of orchestra blasts and stage jokes. Nobody watched. Only 3 episodes aired. Just 4.5 million viewers showed up. But the kinescope survived. Years later, a skit from that pilot went viral on YouTube. A scene where she made fun of a runaway cowboy in a single take. That little moment brought her back into the light. In 1954, she shot The Flame and the Flesh in Italy. Raoul Walsh kept angling the camera down her blouse. She was tired of it. She learned Italian on the spot just to argue with him. "Make me a woman, not a prop," she told a reporter. That quote made headlines. Feminism wasn't a word they used much in 1954, but that was what she was doing. In the big land, she was thrown from a horse, sprained her ankle. She was scared of horses, but had kept that fear hidden since childhood. She popped codeine pills to numb the pain. Slowly, she got addicted. It took 2 years to recover. In 1959, she checked herself into rehab. She beat it, told a magazine, "Pushing through the pain almost ruined my life." Then came Bubba, the Redneck Werewolf, 1960. A mess of a movie. Paid her just $2,500. She needed the money. Her divorce left her drained. She mocked the script right on set. Ad-libbed lines about vampires and werewolves. The director cut them. Trade papers ran headlines. Diva walks out of edits. But she didn't care. She'd rather burn down than fade out. She married him quietly on December 4, 1947, at the Church of the Little Flowers in Hollywood. Virginia Mayo and Michael O'Shea had fallen in love while filming Jack London back in 1943. And even though the cameras stopped rolling, their story kept going. But behind their smiles, the cracks started to show early. By 1952, O'Shea had racked up $50,000 in gambling debts. It was a huge amount at the time, and to save both their home and her image, Virginia did something she never talked about publicly. She secretly sold off her mother's inherited jewelry. The pieces were personal, reminders of her past, but she let them go quietly to wipe away the debt. She never let it become a scandal. She kept her pain tucked behind the soft focus glow of stardom. In 1951, the couple adopted their son, Michael Jr., hoping the child would bring peace into their home. But O'Shea's drinking only got worse. By the mid-50s, things had turned violent. In 1955, during the promotion tour for Pearl of the South Pacific, their argument turned physical and loud enough for the neighbors to hear. The studio didn't wait. MGM's publicity team swept in, silencing the headlines before they even started. This wasn't rare. It was how Hollywood worked back then. Scrub the mess, hide the bruises, protect the brand. But for Virginia, it was another reminder that her life was built on a foundation that kept cracking beneath her feet. They moved to Thousand Oaks in 1960, trying to find peace again. Virginia wasn't ready to slow down, though. She began performing in Las Vegas, earning $10,000 a week by 1963, lighting up the stage with her signature blend of grace and power. But one drive to a show changed everything. Her car crashed, leaving her with severe whiplash. The pain forced her to cancel 15 performances, losing tens of thousands in income. She didn't let it slide. She sued for $75,000 in damages. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming control. For someone who had swallowed her losses before, this was different. This was her career, her body, her voice. She fought back. Then came the hardest chapter. In 1973, Michael O'Shea died of stomach cancer. She stayed by his side through every stage, selling off his prized collection for $30,000 just to help pay for treatment. In a 1974 letter, she told close friends how she held his hand as he slipped away. There was no red carpet moment in that goodbye. Just quiet loyalty. Her grief didn't make the papers. She didn't want it to. Even in loss, she protected the man she once loved. What followed wasn't rest. In 1975, the IRS launched an audit into her Las Vegas earnings. She had missed reporting parts of it, and the settlement cost her $15,000. It was a public mess, but instead of retreating, she turned outward. She began mentoring young actresses at a Los Angeles shelter. She told them about the traps, about the hidden bruises, about what the lights didn't show. She turned her pain into someone else's warning. She became more than a star. she became a lifeline. In 1980, a dusty box in a garage sale reopened her early story. Inside it was her 1941 Warner Brothers screen test reel, once lost, now found. The raw footage showed her as she really was, before edits, before retakes, flirting with Errol Flynn in They Died with Their Boots On. Warner Brothers confirmed its authenticity in 2024 using forensic analysis. It had been buried in a studio vault for decades, never meant to resurface. But now, it told the truth. You could see what the censors cut. You could feel what the audience never got to. Then came a surprise from her own lips. In 1984, during an interview with Skip E. Lowe, Virginia admitted she had once turned down the role that made Marilyn Monroe a legend. Gentlemen Prefer Blondes was offered to her first, but her Warner Brothers contract had strict morality clauses. They were scared the role would tarnish her image. That decision haunted her, but she had followed the rules. She stayed silent all those years, but the regret finally slipped through. In 2023, Warner Brothers leaked 8 minutes of unseen footage from They Died with Their Boots On, including a saloon brawl choreographed by Virginia and Filippo, the studio's Italian fight coach. The scene had been cut for being too violent in 1941. Too much blood, too much fight, too much power from a woman. Now restored, the footage streamed on the Criterion Channel, with Virginia's own commentary pulled from interviews recorded in the 1990s. It wasn't just a fight scene. It was proof she had always been more than just a pretty face. She was 80 when she finally got her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2000. She could have written a memoir then. A publisher offered her $500,000. She turned it down. There were things she didn't want to reveal. There were rumors about Michael's ties to the Vegas mob. She'd rather keep the past quiet than stain her family's name. Privacy mattered more than profit. But some secrets still surfaced. In 1945, the FBI had opened a file on her. A letter she wrote to the USO criticized war profiteers and asked senators to protect soldiers from exploitation. It wasn't public knowledge until 2019, when the file was declassified. She had been watched, monitored, labeled as a possible subversive. But she had only wanted justice. Her courage came in ink, not just on screen. After leaving the spotlight in 1990, she retreated into a home darkroom. There, she restored old reels and discovered lost photographs from white heat. Some of them showed her guiding extras, adjusting scenes, quietly directing in the background. They hinted at the career she might have had if Hollywood had made space for women behind the camera. She shared these rare pieces with only a few close friends and researchers, keeping her influence quiet but very real. In 1997, the final fade began. Virginia was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. She spent her last years in Palm Springs, often reciting lines from The Best Years of Our Lives, sometimes with perfect clarity, sometimes lost in fog. Her son, Michael Jr., took care of her until the end. She passed away on January 17, 2005, at 84, from congestive heart failure and complications from the disease. Even in confusion, the lines she once spoke on screen stayed with her, like echoes of the girl she used to be. In 2006, her estate made one last gesture. They donated 500 annotated scripts to the University of Southern California. Among them were pages from Boots, filled with notes that showed her frustration with scenes cut by the studio. They revealed a woman who wanted more depth, more power, more truth in her roles. Her handwriting turned into a window. Students and scholars now study those pages, using her legacy to understand the decisions that shaped Hollywood. In 2005, false rumors floated around claiming her autopsy had revealed signs of 1950s plastic surgery experiments. These were debunked by new research in 2023. No surgery, No alterations, just the face she had always owned. AI projects soon began using her original footage to recreate her for digital films. The ethics stirred debate, but one truth held strong. Her beauty needed no edits. Her presence didn't fade. In 2024, a new documentary called Vaults of Forgotten Stars gave her the final word. Using restored footage, never-before-seen home videos, and fresh interviews with those who knew her, it told her story without filters. The pain, the talent, the choices, the regrets. The girl behind the glow. The star who kept her secrets. And the legacy she left behind in every reel, every line, every quiet fight she never let the world see.